Hello again everyone. Since the last video was so well received, I will now be trying to post one of these commentated videos every Monday. I will state though that it will depend on if I can record a match that isn't a blowout, as I don't think those will be the greatest to commentate. If y'all think I am wrong and y'all would like for me to try to do those as well, let me know in the comments below. Also, if y'all can, like and subscribe, as this will really help me out. Finally, I also have a Discord that I will be posting down below. In there, you can help me come up with other ideas for videos and even potentially see some videos early once I got that all set up. Anyways, let's get into it. So seeing as I normally head over to the D4, E4 area when I'm playing from the opposite spawn, I tend to come to the same spot on this side, not so much to get early damage, but to deny the enemy that firing position until my team has moved from the G7 area. Now as you can see here, my team at G7 has spotted an enemy on my right. Originally, I believed that he would reverse back into the village, so I didn't look in his direction, but once I noticed that they had committed to the push and are now charging straight to my team, I halted the push and began focusing on him. Luckily from this position, it is a bit difficult for the enemy to fire at me, but I can still spot anyone who crests that ridge for my team that can now fire upon the charging enemy, continuing to deny that enemy the firing position at D4, E4. After all that unexpected aggression from the enemy that ended up failing miserably, and with no one that I spotted at D4, E4, I figured it would be best to enter the village in a somewhat straight line to see if I could spot any enemies sitting at D6, E6, waiting to ambush my allies that push from the G7 area. The reason for driving into the village in a somewhat straight line is to allow me to reverse unimpeded back to the original ridge line where my team can cover me if the enemy were to attempt to rush me again. After poking the enemy, causing him to think twice about exposing their sights to me from this direction and thus preventing further aggression towards my allies at G7, I noticed that enemies were starting to appear on my left flank both here and here. Because of this, I have backed away from pressuring the enemies at D7, E7 and am now trying to find shots on these enemies. It is better to clear your flanks before moving forward than to start being shot from multiple angles during a push into enemy territory. With my targeted notification popping, the cloud of debris, and no visible tracers giving any indication of where the enemy can be, I decided to return to friendly territory before trying to push through the village again to poke the enemy at D7, E7. Now if I were to guess, I would assume, based on when the notification popped while I was coming around the berm, that they would be located at A8 area. But seeing as they knew where I was and it was going to take me some time to even remotely find them, it was better for me to back off and avoid taking unnecessary damage. Unfortunately, with me poking over this ridge just to see if any enemies came this way, I ran into this leopard 2. With this being a hold down battle, my loaded ATGM won't be as effective, but since it's already loaded, I'm going to try my luck and attempt to hit their cupola. Ultimately, it was unsuccessful, but it was worth a try anyways. Since I will have to expose my lower plate to even attempt to hit the leopard 2, while it can easily stay behind cover firing back, I realized this is probably not going to end well for me, so I decided to back down and find another way to combat the leopard. While doing this, I noticed that more and more enemies are now appearing in the field to my left. Since I will be uphill to them, I figured I'd take them out now, so my allies on my left can potentially push up and help me dig this leopard out. Ultimately, because I see that this ally to my left and the ally to my right are going to be pushing around this berm, I decided to flank the enemy that are starting to create a firing line in preparation for what looks like a push starting to happen for my allies on the 1-2 line. As you can see, I have caught the attention of some of these enemies, preventing them from firing on my allies pushing down the 1-2 line. With my allies now in position at A2, they should be able to use the village for cover while providing fire on the now distracted enemies. This results in the detonation of that pesky leopard and allows me to push harder on those trying to hit my allies downhill. Now, because this Abrams isn't focusing on my allies and instead is focusing on me, if I was to crest in an attempt to fire on him, I'll be exposing my lower plate for the mere chance at shooting in his direction. I'm going to focus on this other enemy to my right. Now, since I'm in a position to hit the Abrams whenever he's looking away, my presence here is enough to lock him down, preventing him from looking anywhere else in the fear of being shot. Now, unfortunately for the Abrams, the other enemy ended up retreating, leaving him all by himself. Now, I'd rather not take unnecessary damage, and since I think the retreating enemy is going to reposition and start attacking or even rushing my allies in the northwest corner, sitting here will still allow me to hold the Abrams in position whilst allowing me to provide covering fire if my allies are rushed. Now, as you can see, I was correct in assuming the enemy would rush my allies, but because the Abrams became impatient, I couldn't assist further. Now, due to his impatience, the Abrams made the tactical error of trying to fight an uphill battle in my friendly territory, leading to his rather quick demise. Now, with the Abrams taken care of, I can go back to assisting my allies in the north. As you can see, they have retreated back to the team while also baiting the enemy into our firing line. With that enemy taken care of, I can now turn my focus to the remaining enemies sitting in the northeast corner near their base. Believing that my allies will be able to make short work of the last few remaining enemies in that corner, I figured I'd get a head start in looking for the Weasel and Jaguar. Since I got spotted once I hit this road, that means that the enemy must be either a bit further north around C0B0 or south around E9F9. Seeing as the enemy were all huddled in the northern corner, I figured I'd look there first. Seeing as I was no longer spotted once I went behind this hill, that means that the enemy had to be south of me. As expected, I immediately see the Jaguar and start my pursuit, slinging HE shells to maximize my damage per hit. Now, turning my camera upwards allows me to see where the Jaguar is going even with all this foliage between us. Looking back at it, I really should have swapped over to AP since I now had the side of the Jaguar where HE tends to struggle, but at the time I was more focused on trying to kill the Jaguar than I was focusing on how much damage I was actually dealing. With the Jaguar now dead, it's time for me to find that Weasel. Since he never assisted the Jaguar, I incorrectly assumed he would have been in the north corner, when really I should have assumed that the Jaguar was heading in his way in a failed attempt to get some assistance. With me being spotted on this side of the hill, I know this Weasel has to be somewhere to the south, but seeing as how I'm not targeted, I assume that he can see me, but he can't lay his gun down onto me, so he has to be somewhere on the ridge behind me. Seeing as how the hills between the ridge and me would block a direct line of sight, it's the only place that he could be. With me now being targeted, this further solidifies my theory. I immediately kick it into reverse to try to avoid being hit by the incoming ATGM. With that damage indicator, I can now find the exact location of the Weasel. I can only assume that the weasel didn't think I knew where he was and thus didn't even try to relocate when the first round whizzed overhead. But now that I've got a good hit on him, he is now relocating, so I mark his last location on the map in hopes that my teammates start closing in on him. With my sixth sense popping again, I know the weasel is going to try to take another crack at hitting me once more from that ridge. I immediately try to dip behind these hills to try to break the line of sight. So now that I will be in a protected path to the weasel, I know he will be attempting to run away. Unfortunately, I don't have the engine power to get up there quickly, so I mark the map for my allies to know where he was last spotted. Now, I don't know what was going on, if they thought I was just somebody dead and just pinging the map, or they were assuming that I was just guessing, but it didn't seem like they were really heading where I needed them to go. So because my team didn't properly make a perimeter around the weasel like I was hoping, the weasel ended up getting away. There are multiple ways the weasel could have escaped. He could have gone around the mountain to my left, allowing him to get around me and even potentially take a shot at me. He could have headed west through the rice paddies and escaping through the 1-2 line, or even just digging in on the J line and taking out some of my team as they traverse the field. Seeing as I'm right here next to the southern exit, I'm going to go around to see if I get spotted. If I do, he went that way. If not, I would have wasted so much time and can only hope that my team covered the other exits. Unfortunately, I never did get spotted because the weasel actually headed down the J line, and thankfully, my team ended up spotting him and preventing him from making his escape, extending the game for no reason. By the looks of it, the weasel did manage to get around my teammates, but not enough to get back to being invisible. It's not the greatest outcome, but as long as he's spotted, we can keep chasing. And that's game. Hopefully this helps y'all improve y'all's gameplay, or at the very least, found this as good entertainment. Again, if y'all like this kind of content and would like to see more, let me know down in the comments, as well as liking and subscribing, as it really helps me out. As usual, I'll have the gameplay without commentary here in a second. And as a reminder, I will be trying to do these kind of videos every Monday if I can get more matches that aren't just blowouts. Anyways, good luck out there, and I'll see y'all on the battlefield.
ATGM-equipped.